All right, guys, welcome into my official college football week number 5. Top 10 best bets, where I go through my 10 bests of each week. We're going to begin with number 10, and we're going to go to the number 1 team in the country currently. It is Georgia at Auburn. Very interesting here. I believe Georgia sitting 0-4 against the spread. Auburn is just horrible, guys. I can smell this from a mile away. This is going to be a total Georgia destruction. Their defense, their offense, Brock Bowers finally getting involved. I'm really not crazy high on Georgia's team, but they're just way more talented than Auburn. Auburn, again, part of the reason I'm making this prediction, they're really bad. And people think, oh, they're 3-1. They got 3 ridiculously easy non-conference games. They barely won the game against California. They lose last week easily to Texas A&M, even after Texas A&M's starting quarterback got knocked out. So give me Georgia. You can feel it. You can see maybe 4 or 5 turnovers in this game, 2 defensive touchdowns, Brock Bowers touchdown. It's going to be an avalanche, and Georgia finally finds a way to cover their first spread of the season. This game opened 16.5. It got back down to 14. I guess I can kind of understand it. Again, I'm not crazy high on Georgia. I don't know really who is because of Carson Beck, and it's just nobody expects you to three-peat. I don't think they're going to three-peat, but I do think they're going to very easily win this game. Moving to number 9, it is the Friday night Mona Lisa game. It's Utah at Oregon State, and this is it. This is my final form when I make picks like this, ladies and gentlemen. Oregon State sitting -3. We all understand what's going to happen in this game. This is a correction game. Utah, there is no way they're the number 10 team in the country. They're not even a top 15 team in the country, and I'm a Utah fan. I've got nothing against them. Their offense is not good enough. They had 200 yards of total offense last week. Oregon State, they had a tough road loss. It happens. The only real question I have about Oregon State is their bad defense. The good news for them is they're facing a Utah team. Even if Utah gets Cam Rising back, he's going to be extremely rusty, guys. Oregon State, Friday night game, weird start time, 6 o'clock Pacific. Definitely kind of one of those weird Pac-12 vibes, and it's going to be an avalanche for Oregon State. Utah has good defense, so it's not like Oregon State's going to rout them completely, but I do see a 28-10 victory. This game is trending in Oregon State's direction. They were sitting -2.5. They've gone to -3, although maybe it'll go back down depending on if Cameron Rising plays. If he does, maybe it becomes a pick'em. Either way, I love Oregon State at home in a correction game. They lost last week. They're not going to lose 2 weeks in a row. Utah is overdue for a loss as well. Moving on to number 8, it is LSU at Ole Miss. So LSU, very streaky team. You got to know when to be on LSU. You're on 1 week, you're off the next. You're on 1 week, you're off again. I'm back on LSU. After last week, I was off of them. I said, take Arkansas plus the 17.5. Arkansas nearly wins that game outright. The week before, LSU crushes Mississippi State on the road. And folks, Ole Miss just isn't very good. Alabama beat them by like 14 points. They very easily could have won that game by 21 or even more. Jalen Milroe had a really bad red zone interception into the end zone, or else they would have scored again. And Alabama's defensive line just destroyed Ole Miss. So I will take LSU. They're motivated. They have to win this game. They have way more preseason expectations. Malik Neighbors, he stepped up as a true number 1 receiver. We saw he had his breakout game a few weeks ago. Kind of interesting, ESPN FPI does give Ole Miss a 57% chance to win, mainly because they are at home in this game, and it's not like I love LSU. Again, LSU is very streaky, but this is a week they're going to be on, and I think they cover the 2.5, winning this game, possibly by a touchdown or even more. Moving on to number 7, it is Washington at Arizona. This is a late night 10 o'clock game, and I'm just not even thinking about this game, to be honest. I mean, Washington is just destroying everyone. I kind of feel like this is a team you have to start tailing until they lose, so I've got them -18. Arizona was in a close game last week with Stanford, and Arizona has kind of a decent quarterback transfer. I want to stay from Washington State. Washington being on the road, again, guys, it's just, you just bet it and you don't even think, because Washington is annihilating everyone. And it's not like 18 is a crazy number. If the number was like 27, then I'd be like, all right, you're probably going to want to stop this. An 18-point spread for a Washington team, it feels at some point they're going to stop covering. But really, is this the week against the bad Arizona team? I think they can cover it easily. Moving on to number 6, it is a noon game. So this game, guys, in Illinois, 11 a.m. Central. Both of these teams, we understand with college players, these kids are going to be hungover. They're not going to want to play. Penn State coming off, this is a true hangover game for them, coming off that huge shutout victory over Iowa, 31-0. But Penn State's offense really didn't generate many explosive plays. Northwestern also dealing with their own kind of hangover game. They just came off probably their Super Bowl of the year. There were no expectations. They end up beating Minnesota in overtime at home. And now both of these teams just have nothing left. I've got it at 32-7. I love the under 46. 11 a.m. Central games. Take advantage of these. This game could be, very likely will be 0-0 at the end of the first quarter. Probably going to be 10-0 at halftime. And I think Penn State distances themselves. They've got a great defense. Northwestern, they really don't have a good defense or a good offense. But I will say the under 46 because both of these teams coming off emotional big-time wins, playing in an 11 a.m. Central game, it just sets up perfectly for the under to hit. Moving on to number 5, it is Northern Illinois at Toledo. So Toledo only sitting minus 13.5. Very surprised here in looking at some of the analytical models, some of the deep dives that I've done. Toledo should destroy Northern Illinois. I know Northern Illinois won in week 1, I want to say against Boston College, but other than that, they've been terrible this year, and 13.5 seems like a lower number. The MAC is tough, but when you've got a number like 13.5, you can win by 2 touchdowns and cover, but I do expect Toledo, as long as they get into the 30s or 40s, they should easily cover a 13.5 point spread. If this spread was 17 or 18, honestly, that's what I expected it to be. All the analytical models say Toledo should be about minus 17, minus 18. I will take them to win this game easily. You can say they kind of haven't performed maybe as well the past few weeks, but in a home game against Northern Illinois, 3:30, I will take them in a blowout. Number 4, it is South Carolina at Tennessee. So last week, Tennessee, they got back on track. They destroyed UTSA. They really went up early in that game and, kind of just sat on the ball in the second half. So Tennessee sitting minus 12.5. There has been positive line movement for the Volunteers. They were minus 11.5. This is a 7:30 game at home. It's going to be raucous. And, this is definitely revenge for Tennessee, in my opinion. South Carolina is not that good this year. I think Tennessee covers the 12.5. I'm staying in on them. They win this game 38-21. The over-under in this game, I was thinking about the over until I saw it was at 64. That's a little bit high. And South Carolina does like to run the ball. So I'll just take Tennessee minus the 12.5. Moving on to number 3, it is USC at Colorado. So here it is, the big noon game. And I guess we need to take advantage of the ridiculousness of Fox trying to get the biggest ratings and literally milk this Colorado team for all they're worth in terms of the ratings. They are a primetime spot. We all know it. It's noon Eastern. And obviously it's a big problem with Colorado. Boulder, it's a mountain time zone. It's a 10 a.m. game. It's just ridiculous. Obviously, Fox does not care about the product. They just care about views. So, yes, this game is starting. Basically, they're going to be kicking it off like right at 9:59 a.m., 10 a.m. It's disgusting. We have to take the under 73.5. USC, their fan base is waking up at 9 a.m. trying to watch this game. I'll take USC to win 34-24. I can understand why it is a high over-under because Colorado has a terrible defense. USC also doesn't have that great of a defense. They kind of struggled last week against Arizona State, allowing 28 points. But again, we're just taking advantage of the time slot and the greediness of Fox here by going in on a ridiculously high over-under 73.5. We'll take the under. Moving on to number 2, it is New Mexico traveling to Wyoming. So you'll get a few of these every year where Wyoming is at home in kind of a mid-afternoon game. And these games just, if you watch college football, they always go under literally every time. This is a mortal lock. It just comes from my seasoning, me being a college football expert. You can kind of pick these games out. You can pinpoint them. You can snipe them. And I snipe Wyoming games all the time, and I always get it right. So New Mexico, do they have a good offense? Who really cares? Wyoming normally has good defense. It's a 4 o'clock game. They're at home. There's expected to be some snow flurries. It's going to be 25 degrees. It's cold weather, and Wyoming's been good this year. They only have 1 loss. I will take the under. It's a low over-under at 42. That doesn't surprise me. As long as it was over 40, I was going to take the under 42 in that one. And then number 1, it is San Diego State at Air Force. So I've been off San Diego State since the beginning of the season when all the advanced analytics said, yeah, this year San Diego State, they're really, really bad. And Air Force, I've said with Air Force, I wasn't trolling. Air Force is definitely a dark horse playoff contender. I said they were going to go undefeated. They're already sitting at 4-0, and now they're minus 10.5. They were minus 9.5 earlier, but everyone has gone in on Air Force, and now people are coming up to me and they're admitting, yes, you were right about Air Force. I can't believe it. It's the greatest call in history. This is my endgame finale. If I actually predict this with Air Force making the playoff, they're already 4-0. They're going to be ranked after getting this win against a bad San Diego State team. Easy win, 35-13 there. And then I do have a few bonus picks here for week number 5, just some additional add-ons to talk about. Coastal Carolina plus 6.5 at Georgia Southern. So this is just a game the analytics love Coastal Carolina. It's basically a pick 'em according to the analytics, so we'll go in on them with the value plus the 6.5. Although Georgia Southern can score. Number 2, Purdue -1 versus Illinois. Certainly, I expect Purdue to win this game. Illinois, I have been off Illinois since the preseason. They're just not that good of a team. I'm sorry. They're going to lose this game. Purdue sitting with multiple losses. They need this win badly. They're at home. They have a better offense. They get it done. It's going to be close. It's going to be gritty, but they win that game and cover the one. UCF -11.5 versus Baylor. So I just think Baylor is terrible this year, and UCF coming off that tough loss at Kansas State, they're going to want to get back on track. They're only sitting -11.5. They do have offensive upside. I will take them to cover and possibly score 30 or 40 plus points. We've got Cincinnati at BYU, the over 49.5. So this is your typical late night Friday game. This game is on Friday, and I think it's just going to be a higher scoring game. I mean, you're looking at like a 30 to 27 type game. BYU probably winning, but either way, I would expect a higher scoring game there. Just kind of late Friday night vibe on that one. And then we do have Florida at Kentucky, the under 46. Neither of these teams, this is a noon game in Lexington, and neither QBs. I guess Devin Leary's decent, but Graham Mertz is nothing special. Florida scored 22 points last week against Charlotte. They couldn't get in the end zone. I will take the under on that. I also think Kentucky wins that game. But either way, guys, those are my top 10 week number 5 best bets for college football. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.